Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start with a story from 20 years ago between bikers and the offender behind the wheel. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Bikers threaten a woman? My friend and I rode our bikes into town. There were only a few designated areas for bikes. A car was parked in the middle of a clearly marked bike bay, only 2 spaces available, one at the front and one at the back. We put our bikes in those 2 spaces. On the way to the shop, we spotted a traffic warden, told her about the car, she put a ticket on it. 10 minutes later, we returned to our bikes, the driver's waiting by her car. She starts yelling at us about how petty we were for blocking her in. We ignored her. I say to my friend, "I'm thirsty, I need a coffee." As we're talking, she's still ranting. Traffic warden number 2 writes her a ticket. We go off for a coffee. 20 minutes later, again we return to our bikes. By now, she's red in the face angry. She starts screaming in our faces about how she could just run over our bikes. My friend's only 5'5" and started talking to her calmly. That would be a mistake. If anything happens to our bikes, we'd know it was you. You've already gotten 2 tickets. She cut him off. She rang the police, claiming that 2 big bikers were threatening her, a lone female. The police believed us. One of the officers spoke to us, but loud enough for her to hear. "You lads have had some stress. I don't want either of you riding your bikes. Go for a walk, grab a coffee." Meanwhile, another police officer's giving her a ticket. 40 minutes later, we returned to our bikes just in time to see traffic warden number 2 issuing another ticket. No idea where she was. Only went to town to buy some paint, meant to be only 5 minutes. She ended up with 4 fixed penalty tickets. Edit. I never claimed that we were bikers. My friend was on a 200cc, I rode a 125, I was still on L plates. This happened in the UK over 20 plus years ago. Even more motorcycle bays have gone, the area's now changed. I worked in the area, I knew a few traffic wardens, spoke with them regularly. Traffic wardens worked alongside the police traffic wardens no longer exist. There are now council parking enforcement officers. They have less power than the previous traffic wardens. Our bikes were close but not touching her car. Although tight with a little time, she could have gotten out without hitting the bikes. Imagine having laws and then getting mad by not obeying them. She totally deserved it. And our next story. How the spider defeated Karen. Meet the cast. Me, exacerbated front desk clerk Karen, ridiculous guest reenactors, Civil War reenactors, there was a crowd of them, Dinesh, fake name, cowardly coworker. I say this tongue-in-cheek as I teased him about this for a year. Back in the 2000s, I worked for a large motel outside, but not in, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I won't say which one. For context, the hotel is actually 3 buildings built at different times. Building 1 was about 40 years old at this time and included doubles, the breakfast area, a restaurant, the front desk, and the former back office that had been converted into an apartment to house the head of housekeeping and her family. Her brothers owned several hotels/motels, and she and her husband were responsible for maintenance and housekeeping. Her teenage son was also trained on front desk and worked after he got home from school until I got in at 10 p.m. During the school year, he did his homework at the desk, and we all cut him a ton of slack, which I still to this day miss working with him. Building 2 was 15 years old and housed only king rooms, and there were 8 of them. Building 3 was 10 years old and had 2 suites, and the rest were doubles but were much nicer than Building 1. Also note, all rooms open to the central courtyard where the pool and patio are. Now, we always try to avoid renting Building 1 rooms out to anyone other than construction workers and those looking for the cheapest rates, and we always warn them that while clean, the rooms hadn't been remodeled recently. Rates for Building 1 were normally $40 a night. Kings in Building 2 were about $55 a night. This changes dramatically during the first week in July when the Gettysburg reenactors descended. Gettysburg is a sleepy town of about 8,000, and it swells to 500,000 to 600,000. If you don't book a year in advance, there are no rooms as far west as Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, north to past Harrisburg, south to Frederick, Maryland, and east to Lancaster. Everyone, and I mean everyone, jacks their rates for those weeks. Our worst room suddenly was $120 a night. We make a reservation sign and fax a form stating that deposits are required, no cancellations, and no shows will be billed for one night and their room will be sold. It's harsh, but the owners have been burned in the past, and it's not completely unheard of in the industry. So the housekeeper and her staff, with a little slave labor from her youngest, ferrying blankets back and forth from the laundry room, deep clean rooms, and get things ready for the early birds. The day before the battle, most, but not all the customers had checked in, and my boss kept checking the occupancies. We've walked around the rooms and made sure everything was stocked. Since it was all hands on deck in our busiest time of the year, we're all working extra hours. He told me to call his cell the minute the last reservation checked in, as likely I would be the one on shift. As I'm checking in the guests, I have several people coming in asking if I have any vacancies, and I'm apologetic. I give them suggestions of where to look, but it's hopeless. At about 9 or 10 p.m. in the evening, I'm checking in a woman who's huffing and puffing when another group comes in. They aren't together, but just arrived at about the same time. The woman is my last check-in, and I hand her the key, already seeing she's going to be a problem guest. She grabs the card and is out the door before I can even go over pool hours or breakfast hours. A nice older couple in period attire walk up and look almost defeated. Mrs. Elderly Reenactor, easily 60 to 70 years old, "Is there any chance you have a room? I'll take anything with a working toilet at this point." Me: "I'm so sorry, ma'am. Let me see if I can call around to the other hotels and shake my contacts and see if anyone's had cancellations or no-shows. Not likely, but I'll try. If you want to wait a minute, feel free to get a coffee." Since there are about 6 to 8 people in the tiny lobby, they decide to collectively wait to see what I might find, and it isn't looking good, when Karen comes flying back in, yelling that the room is filthy and she doesn't want it. Karen: "That room is disgusting. In no way worth $200 a night. I want a different room or I want my money back." Her voice already starting to pitch into supersonic ranges. Me: "I'm sorry, but I checked those rooms myself this morning when housekeeping was rushing and the supervisor couldn't check it herself." Karen: "No, you didn't. There are bugs everywhere. It's disgusting." Me, taking a deep breath: "Okay, ma'am, there were no bugs this morning. Would you please show me?" Praying to all the gods that it's not bed bugs and just flies or mosquitoes. Karen: "No, I'm not staying here in that bug-infested room." Me, now peeved but still with the fake smile and customer service voice: "I understand, ma'am, but in order to release the remaining days, I need to see the problem. Otherwise, you'll lose the entire deposit. Show me, and then I'll make this right. As you know, we're at 100% occupancy, so I don't have another room. Please show me." I grab the till key and make sure it's secure and ask the others to sit tight and I'll be right back. I see a hopeful glint in these people's eyes. She's shrieking in my ear the whole walk to the opposite side of the courtyard. I get there and she opens the door, still screeching about bugs. First off, I see that she slid out a very heavy cabinet and pushed it mostly back. Now remember that we just deep cleaned, so I look behind furniture, under the bed, move the mattress, check the mattress protective cover, look in the window trays, and move into the bathroom. Nothing. I see a random bug flying around from us having the door open, but not an infestation. Me, turning to her: "Other than that mosquito, where are the bugs?" Karen: "You stupid girl! They're in the bathroom." I'm 26 at the time. Me: "Ma'am, I was just in there. There were no bugs." Karen grabs my arm and drags me into the bathroom, holds up the end of the toilet tissue roll, and there's a 1-inch spider that's managed to find its way in, and the thing hasn't even had time to build a web. Karen: "See? This room is disgusting." Okay, so some people are terrified of spiders. So I grab some toilet paper and kill the spider and flush the carcass. But since she's willingly got near it, I doubted it was arachnophobia. She's still yelling and insulting me and the property. Me: "There you go, ma'am. I'm sorry the spider got in here, but as you can see, she didn't have time to make a web, so I evicted her for you. Would you still want the room?" Karen: "No, and you're going to give me a full refund so I can go elsewhere. I'm not staying here." At this point, I've just about lost my last herd of F's and the sheepdog keeping them in my head. And that's when I decide to get even for the insults. Me: "Okay, ma'am, I understand. Let's go back to the office. I wouldn't want you to have to stay in a room that doesn't meet your standards, and we do have a satisfaction guaranteed policy." Karen shuts up. She thinks she's won. When we get back, I still have 6 to 8 people in my office, and Mr. and Mrs. Elderly Reenactors are sitting in the oversized chairs sipping coffee. Me. Ma'am, give me 1 moment to pull up a form for you to fill out for the refund so I can file it with the night audit. I'll then refund your deposit and I'll waive the 1-night charge for a no-show. However, I think you should call around and find a room before I finish the cancellation so you have a place to stay. For about a 50-mile radius, everyone's booked. She yells at me again as I pull up a complaint form and print it for her to fill out. I write on it that the cancellation is final, the room will be resold, motel is not responsible for securing alternative accommodations, and she'll get all her money returned to her, and she agrees to those terms. After I'm finished, she snatches the final bill from me after I'm checking her back out of the system, and she pulls out. Of course, she didn't secure accommodation as I warned. I just hold up a hand for a moment to let the others wait and watch her until she's off property. Then smile to Mr. and Mrs. Elderly Reenactors. Me. So would you like the room? The Yankee Spider's been dispatched. Mrs. Elderly Reenactor. Oh yes, dear. Mr. Elderly Reenactor. Think General Lee might conscript more spiders for these ladies and gentlemen? Me. I'm sorry, but I'll do my best to help them. Fast forward to 3 a.m. and I'm finishing up night audit and paperwork. I was also unofficially the sales director and pulling a double shift. I finally get to sit down because I've also been running extra towels and blankets and chasing people from the pool periodically. Guess who comes in? I'll spare you more dialogue, but Karen comes in screeching she wants her room back. I tell her I sold it as soon as she was out of the parking lot, and she signed the paper with the terms. I tell her she has to leave, and if she doesn't, I'll get the manager. She's screaming, and I see the room to the back office/apartment silently crack, but Dinesh does not come out. He just lets me deal with her. He later told me he figured if he exited the back office having obviously been asleep, she'd assume I was renting the office out to a guest and freak worse, but was listening in case I needed the police or help for my safety. Fair enough. She gives one final frustrated scream and leaves. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.